8 lessons I learned the hard or long way from over 10 years of practicing photography. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Greg. I'm a photographer from the UK, and if you're not, then thank you for joining me again. When I first picked up a camera back in 2012, I believe it was, my photos were getting noticeably better every single week and every single month, and that initial improvement spike is so encouraging and so inspiring. But of course that rapid improvement tapered off pretty quickly and at times felt like it had come to a complete stop. And because of that initial crazy growth that you have as a beginner, this was obviously pretty disheartening, but the turning point was when I actually realized this is just normal, and it goes across any hobby or interest really. The learning curve slows down rapidly because after you've gained that beginner knowledge and those fundamentals, the improvements that we make often become a lot more subjective and definitely more complex. We're likely to have spikes here and there where things seem to be clicking over and over again and we're making lots of improvements, and other periods where it feels like we're just kind of chugging along and staying at a decent level of experience. But as long as you're being consistent, always practicing, continually getting out with your camera, you are improving. It's just not as fast and easy as when you're a beginner. In my personal experience, if you want to kind of try and kickstart a period of great improvement, then simply put yourself back in the position of the unknown. Go and learn a photography skill or try a genre of photography that you've never tried before. Give yourself some random challenges that will put you out of your comfort zone, and they will often kickstart a nice little growth period. The next lesson came very soon after that first knowledge had set in as well, and as you do, I started calling myself a photographer after I'd learned the basics, learned how to use a camera. But I very quickly realized that I was almost calling myself a photographer to make me feel better at myself, even in periods where I'd go a long time without using a camera or doing anything even remotely related to photography. Obviously this massively hindered my progress, and I believe I've said before that it's one of my biggest regrets looking back that I spent these periods of not shooting at all, not doing anything to do with photography, but still going about and calling myself a photographer. Almost as if you're like trying to prove a point to somebody when you meet people or you're at work and you say, oh yeah, I'm a photographer, but deep down you know that you haven't shot for a long time. All the people around me that were creating incredible work that I was inspired by weren't doing it because they called themselves a photographer. They were doing it because they were out there practicing and doing the actual act of it. You can't be lazy. That's the lesson. You can't be lazy. All right, so I spent many years overcomplicating composition and thinking that my photos had to be action-packed and include loads of different compositional elements and guidelines and cram them all in there, and if I do that then I'll get an image that's incredible. The turning point here happened when I realized that actually, for me, it might not be the case for everybody, but the simpler my photos, I actually like them more the simpler they are. And the fact is, photography composition is something that we can never truly master. You continue growing and learning with it, and you go through stages where you favor some compositions over other compositions, and even when you think you've ticked all the boxes, you'll come across a scene or a subject that stumps you and you take 100 different versions of and you come away and you're still not sure about it. So we can never complete it. It's not something that's, you know, there's no tick box that says you've now mastered photography composition. I see a lot of comments online that are like, there's no composition here because there's no foreground, midground and background, or it's not used the rule of thirds or anything like that. But to me, that isn't what makes a nicely composed image. A nicely composed image, again, in my opinion, is something that just works. Whether you've used any of the guidelines, whether you've included something in your foreground. Long story short, if you feel like you're overcomplicating your photos or struggling with composition, then simplify it, write right down, and just go out and maybe focus on one style of photo, one rule in photography. And then when you feel like you've really got somewhere with that approach, you can bring in a bit more and bring in a bit more. And like I say, don't feel like all your images need to be full of action. Don't feel like every single third of your frame needs to be jam-packed with elements. Right, sip of my iced coffee. I used to be the guy sitting at home, looking out the window, checking the weather forecast and waiting for the perfect sunrise, sunset, or sitting in on a winter day, just hoping that fog would magically appear, or one morning I would wake up and there would be an absolute fog-covered landscape. Don't get me wrong, planning plays a massive role in photography. In certain situations, it can be absolutely pivotal to obviously getting the shot right, but I do think over-planning and only ever going and shooting when the stars align can cripple photographers a little bit. The fact of the matter is we can't always plan our best photos. A lot of our best photos happen by complete chance, or sometimes we wake up and we've not even planned to shoot that day and the weather's absolutely fantastic and we do go and get some fantastic images. And if you're still in the very early years of photography, then one of the biggest tips I can give you is to get out in every possible condition, every time of day, every light, and just shoot as much as possible and really learn those conditions, because I always say what's more valuable than waiting around and sitting at home for the best conditions is learning where to go based on the conditions that you're faced with. Okay, I'll be the first to put my hands up in the air and say that I don't know every single little intricate detail and feature and function of how cameras operate and every single setting in the menu on my camera. And again, there might be some people sitting there saying that is absolutely ridiculous, how do you not know that? Well, basically, a few years ago when I upgraded a camera, I realized I was a little bit behind technology because I'd been using an old body for quite some time, and then I got this new camera and it had all these new features that I'd never used before. So for a while, I went down a very deep dive of learning about all the features that were newest on the market across all cameras, lenses, accessories. And after a little while, I decided, actually, I don't really care. I know how my camera operates and I know the functions on it that I need for the photos that I want to take. Having an artistic eye allows us to make the deliberate choices to then control the camera to take the photo. So if you've got a pyramid like this and the bottom, the most important part of the bottom of a good photo is having a very artistic eye, being able to see photo opportunities. That sits at the bottom, because without that, it doesn't matter how much you know about a camera, you're not going to get a good photo. I could give a textbook to somebody that taught them everything about my camera, and if they'd never done photography before and never worked on composition or anything like that, they could learn everything they need to know about my camera, but then when they go out with it, vision in my eyes trumps technical stats and figures and know-how every time. Which leads me nicely onto my next lesson. I spent about a little spree 5 or 6 years ago of booking epic photography trip after epic photography trip. I would sit in bed or lie in bed at night, absolutely buzzing about the trip I was going on the next day, saying, this is it. I'm going to take thousands of photographs. I'm going to come back. I'm going to be able to post them for months and months and have content for days. And then when I can afford it, I'll book the next trip and then do that and rinse and repeat. And for one of the trips, I actually dedicated buying a drone to go on that trip with, which is very relevant to this lesson, because we cannot buy good photos. We cannot simply upgrade our camera and instantly get better photos, and trips around the world do not guarantee us great photos. Look, everybody wants to travel. If I could be in a new place every single week to take photos, would I say no? Of course I wouldn't. I saw a comment recently on a video. It was a photography video based in Japan, and the comment read something along the lines of, I wish I lived in Japan. I can't even practice photography to my full potential where I am at home. If you can't get good photos in the place that you know the most, that you've got the most knowledge about, that is literally your unfair advantage as a photographer, then what's to say you're going to go to Japan for a week and get good photos in an area that you don't know whatsoever? Booking a holiday doesn't just solve our photography problems or our lack of knowledge in a certain area. You need to put the reps in wherever you are, your local area, but you cannot buy good photos. I've had many photo sessions or trips over the years where I've come back and it's felt like I've sat at the desk here behind me pressing delete over and over again for what felt like the majority of the images. And for a long time, this felt like failure. I was sitting at the desk like, oh my God. The turning point for this though was when I actually realized and became conscious that I was actually just deleting photos that I would have been happy with 5 or 10 years ago, but I'm setting the bar a lot higher now. And when we set the bar a lot higher, we may delete more photos because we're gonna keep the very best ones that are actually worthy of our time. And Your hard drives will thank you as well, because instead of sitting there editing the same subject from 20 different angles, your ability to now spot the best image that you've taken, the best angle with the best light, and just focus on that one and get rid of the other ones is a huge sign of progress. So don't feel bad about deleting your photos. If anything, you may be doing yourself a favor. I spent many years stressing and obsessing over photography style and editing style. There were times I'd sit down at the desk and I'd say to myself, right, I'm gonna put in 2 or 3 hours here and I'm gonna find my style. The amount of times where I landed on a style and then it changed a year later or 2 years later or a month later was absolutely off the charts. Fast forward many years and it's very apparent to me now that most photographers have to go through many styles before they land on their, let's say, final form. And even when we do land on it and we're like, okay, I've found it here, this is great, we then continue to make tweaks to it and subtly we continue to slightly tweak it and refine it as the years go on. And that's fine, you know. This is why putting pressure on finding a photography style is kind of pointless, because you can waste time sitting in trying to come up with this magical style that nobody has ever done before. But the fact of the matter is, the only way to find your photography style is to put many years of photography into practice. And if at any point you feel like something's missing, it's not clicking, or you feel stagnant, or you don't like the style that you're creating anymore, then change it up. It's as simple as that. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Check out all the links in my description if you would like to support my channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.